Hi there. Not sure if you can hear me. Hi there. It's Doris here from Earth to Bottle. I'm a wellness advocate and essential oil specialist, and I'm hoping that some of you are able to join me here for a little mindful Monday talk, taking a few minutes to think about how we can support ourselves emotionally, which ultimately can support us physically as well. I'm kind of new to this, so I don't know where to look for comments to see if anybody's there. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see me? Hopefully it's working. Anyways, I don't want to take up too much of your lunchtime if you're taking a few minutes out of your lunch. So today for Mindful Monday, I wanted to talk a little bit about our brain. And if you can kind of start to have a little bit of an understanding, then you can start to make little changes to support yourself. So I want to talk just about three basic parts. And first of all, I want to tell you that I'm not a medical doctor. I don't have a degree in psychology or anything like that. I just have a super passion for learning about different things. And the brain has always been one of those things that intrigues me, along with human behavior, emotions, and that kind of thing. Just it's always fascinated me. So the three parts I want to talk about are firstly the amygdala. So if you think about your brain, I'll just show kind of like a half. The little part, oh, hi, Renee. Oh, hi, Gil. Thanks for joining me. Gil is joining us all the way from India. Isn't that cool? Thanks for being here. So our amygdala is kind of what I call the primitive brain. It's there to help us respond in times of extreme stress, heightened anxiety, maybe a situation where you're fearful. So it initiates the fight, flee, or freeze response. And it's our primitive brain. So it goes back, many, many years. Think about encountering a dinosaur. You don't have time to think. So that primitive brain would take hold and it would say, is this a time that I need to be fighting this creature off, or maybe it's I need to freeze and it will kind of not see me and it'll go away, or maybe I need to be afraid. Okay, so fight, flee, or run. Sorry, flee. So that's your primitive brain. It's still part of us, and a lot of times it can take over in situations where we are feeling stressed or fearful, that kind of situation. And it can be a good thing. It can work to help us, but sometimes it can be a disadvantage. So I also want to talk about the hippocampus, which is near the amygdala. Okay. It is, I think of it as our knowledge center. It's where all of our knowledge, experiences, our learning, all of those things are stored in there, kind of in like little filing cabinets. And when we need that information, we can go in and search and retrieve that. Well, actually, our brain does it. Does it automatically. We're not even aware of it. So you know how sometimes you kind of know the name of something or remember a place you've been and you can't quite remember, but then if you give it some time or even go to something else and then come back to it, oh, now I remember. So that's kind of your brain going through all those little files to find the information you need. So that's the hippocampus. The prefrontal cortex, okay, the front part is a part of our brain that doesn't actually develop until you're well beyond your teenage years, which kind of can explain the impulsive and maybe not so great choices teenagers make going through that phase of their life. But it is kind of the wise owl. Okay, so it helps us to stop and think, retrieve that information, kind of figure out, well, I have a problem. How could I solve that problem? And it's using your knowledge and experience to come up with a solution. Okay? So sometimes, especially, since that part of the brain isn't fully developed for several years, that can be difficult, right? As you can imagine. Sometimes that part of your brain can be damaged, and in which case it can be something that causes you difficulty throughout your life, right? But I wanted to talk about how our brain works. So we experience 50 to 60 or more thousand thoughts a day. And most of those thoughts are unconscious. I mean, we're not thinking about whether we're breathing or not. That just happens, right? We're not aware of all of these thoughts. They just occur. The interesting part is 90% of those 50 to 60 plus thoughts are negative, okay? And they repeat. 80% of them repeat every single day. So it's a negative story, and you're not aware of it. It's kind of like you're kind of unconsciously unaware. You're not even aware that they're happening. So I think of the example that I heard at a workshop I was at by Jessica Travis, which is she was a nurse in a neurological center, and she gave the analogy. Think about it. If you can give yourself an ulcer, think about how powerful your brain is. And often the ulcer stems from those negative thoughts that we might not even be aware we're experiencing, right? So our emotions and our thoughts can affect us physically. And over time, they can affect us because of that emotional piece. It can become a chronic condition. So we want to find ways to kind of stop that primitive brain from taking over. And I kind of use the analogy like flipping your lid, like it just totally takes over and you're like, my goodness, what happened? Why did I say that? Why did I do that? So if you can understand the parts of the brain and kind of notice signs as they're happening, then you can maybe stop that from happening, right? So making a better choice and kind of calming your brain down. A super easy way to do that is simply by breathing. There's actually a system of breathing where if you take, and your breath will get deeper and longer as you do this, so you can take a deep breath in and hold it, and you can count to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you breathe it out through your nose or your mouth, and you hold it at the end of blowing that breath out for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds, and it might seem like a super long time the first time you do that, but you'll get better at it. And then you do that again, and you repeat that 5, 6, 7 times. That actually can lower your blood pressure and calm you down. It affects your vagus nerve. So that's an amazing way to help calm yourself down. A really quick way to support our emotional well-being is through using, of course, essential oils. And when I speak of using essential oils, I'm only talking about certified pure tested grade oils. We don't want to be breathing in or putting on our skin or taking anything internally that has not gone through rigorous testing. So please do your research. And I say that because there's no governing body that tells you what goes into a bottle of essential oils. So it might say, you might pick something up at, your local drugstore or Walmart, that kind of thing. And it might say pure essential oils. It might say therapeutic essential oils. It might have one component of one oil that might be pure, maybe at 5 or 10%, and they can put that label on the bottle. So just buyer beware and do your research. You want to make sure and find out where and how the oils are sourced, right? And you want to make sure that they're tested rigorously so that what is in the essential oil bottle is exactly what it says. So I wanted to talk to you about the olfactory system, the limbic system, and how it affects the limbic system. So if you just pinch the top of your nose, can everybody do that? That would help if I could see you doing that, but here I am. Pinch the top of your nose. Okay, you can let go of your nose now. Just in that area is your olfactory nerve, and behind that is your olfactory bulb. So when you are smelling something, okay, that's your sort of your sensation there. The sense of smell and aromatic things can affect your brain and emotions because it sort of has a direct signal, a direct line, so to speak. It doesn't have to go through your whole body. Through that olfactory bulb, its scent can send a single signal through to your brain, which causes a reaction in your brain, and messages go throughout your body. And so just to give you an idea, using so you can use that breathing technique, but another super easy way to kind of get the emotional support you need is through using an essential oil that sort of targets that. So everybody probably has heard of lavender. So this is a great one. It has many uses besides what we're talking about today, but for today I did want to talk about that emotional piece, because I don't know about you, but these times of uncertainty and what we've been going through have caused a lot of mixed emotions, and it's kind of like we're grieving. Some people actually are grieving because they've lost a loved one over the few months, and even seeing that process through has changed with everything that's happening and having to be physically distant and whatnot. So, but the rest of us are grieving too, because grieving is when you have an extreme change, something that you can't control, a new way of being, for example, trying to figure all this out. It can cause a whole mix of emotions. And that heightened level of anxiousness and feeling of being out of control, that can cause inflammation in our systems over time, which can lead to chronic conditions. When we wake up unwell, we didn't just, come up upon that overnight. It's something that usually has been festering for some time. So we can do a lot of different things, and I hope on Mondays to touch on different things. But today I wanted to touch on emotional aromatherapy. So just taking a drop of lavender, for example, you can put it in the palm of your hand. See that? You can rub your hands together and create your own personal scent tent. You can do that breathing with the lavender over your nose or other emotionally supporting oils. Right? You can rub that on the back of your neck, in your temples, right? Rub your fingers on your pillow before nighttime. You could also use a diffuser. Diffusers are great. So if you think about being by a waterfall or near an ocean, and you can smell it and you know you're by an ocean, right? So what this does is it breaks down the molecules to tiny, tiny, microscopic. So you're breathing it in and it's going through your system, and you're getting that effect through your olfactory bulbs, signaling to your brain, but also the tiny molecules are going into your respiratory system, and as a result also to the rest of your body. You can also take any calming oil and put that drop on the bottom of your feet. So lavender is one that we think of a lot as a calming, soothing oil. There are so many others that I could probably do like an hour just on a whole bunch of others, but I wanted to talk to you about one more. It's a newer oil called Adaptive. So it has lavender in it, which can help also with having a sustained attention, and it can help you with your voice. So hopefully now that I've had my lavender, I'm not going to stutter. We'll see if it helps. It also has magnolia, neroli, and sweet gum, which are stress-relieving oils. Wild orange, one of my favorites, also a citrus oil, and spearmint are energizing and uplifting. And copaiba and rosemary help to soothe anxious feelings. So think of that combination of oils. You don't even have to think about it. You can just use that and it goes to work. It does its thing. Some of these oils, also like Adaptive, come with their own ready diluted with fractionated coconut oil. So you can take that on the go, and it has like a roller bottle at the end. You can just put it on your pulse points. I like to put it on my jugular veins. You could put it behind your knees, bottom of your feet, make a little scent tent. Any of those ways work. And it takes about 20 seconds for these oils to get to your cells. And then within about 20 minutes, they're throughout your system doing their thing. So good to know that we're using pure essential oils to support us. And I hope that even just if you don't have oils, trying that breathing technique can really help to reduce your blood pressure, calm you down. And it's a good one to do if you're going to be maybe even if you're working from home, you know, doing things online is a whole new different way. You might be presenting online, and so that breathing exercise could be something you do beforehand. Sometimes that little bit of anxiousness is a good thing. It can, you know, provide stimulation and kind of get you going. So talk just a little bit about a couple of calming oils. As I said, there's so many others, and maybe another time we'll pick a couple more to talk about. But the important thing today is if you can understand what's happening when you're sort of feeling out of control, then there are things. The good news is that that negative pattern doesn't have to continue to repeat. So we can change that story. And the story could have been a word someone said to you when you were little or in grade school, or it could be an extreme trauma. It could be a memory of something that maybe you misinterpreted. Maybe you didn't hear a whole conversation and the part you remember stuck with your brain, right? So we can change that story. But the first part is becoming aware. So I want to talk maybe next Monday about the difference between some natural solutions and pharmaceutical solutions. And I'm not dissing pharmaceutical solutions at all. I believe they do have their place. But if you understand that there maybe are some other alternatives when you're starting to feel a certain way, then you might be able to avoid that route, or they can support you in conjunction with those supports you have in place, and of course always talking with any medical professional that you are involved with. But it's really interesting how pharmaceuticals signal the brain to produce certain things to support us, and maybe we'll talk more about that next week because I could go on about that. But it also changes our brain and our receptors and how they function and fire. So I'm going to touch on that next week, and hopefully you enjoyed this few minutes of your time at lunch. So bye for now.